on the side for Al, and maybe she should take you up on that.
Absolutely.
That's great.
So,
My husband and I went to Wegmans the other day with our homemade handkerchiefs as masks and homemade masks made of handkerchiefs, and our kids made fun of us as they saw the pictures, and now they're all offering us 10% more. So I think we're going to be.
We all look like bank robbers going into the Wegmans.
I know. Well, it sounds like the game's all here, right?
Yeah, we're ready to go.
Ready to
Go
go.
ahead and get started then. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order, and thank you all for joining us today, albeit remotely. I appreciate the dedication of our staff there. At the county offices, Anna and team are there supporting us, and the rest of us are here on our phones. So we appreciate the dedication to the COMIDA and all that they're doing for us. And ever reliable Rachel is here with her there. We're about to, and you're all sitting 6 feet apart, I understand. So.
We absolutely are.
Okay. So are we streaming?
Yes,
Yes.
we are streaming.
We are streaming. Okay. I'll ask for an approval of the minutes of our meeting from March 17th. Is there a motion?
Hey, Ann,
Yes, Jay.
and this is Jay. On the minutes, it shows, I didn't come into the meeting until the Fairview Hotel group. And the minutes show me voting aye on the first two projects, and I wasn't there.
Okay, with that correction, are there any other corrections?
Just because of copy.
Ask for a motion then to approve.
So moved.
Moved by someone.
Troy.
Troy, and seconded.
All right, Tony.
Okay, and seconded by Tony. Thank you. Motion carries on that. The next item on the agenda is our review of the local laboring report, labor monitoring report. Kevin is not in attendance. You each received a copy of the local grill report in your files that were sent to you. Pretty self-evident there. Any questions on that? Okay, bring none. Let's move on to the financial report. And Greg is going to walk us through that.
Okay, thanks, Ann. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, we're 3 months into our calendar fiscal year here. Everything's holding steady. Cash is still in a pretty strong position, a little in excess of $8 million. All the other balances are pretty consistent and within line with expectations. I will steer you down to the bottom just to get an understanding of where our revenue and expenses are year to date through March. The first column there represents where we are through the first 3 months: $365,000 of revenue, $342,000 of expenses. As you can see, there's a 0 in that sponsorships column there for year to date, and that's probably for a couple of reasons. One is that we may not have all the invoices in yet because we're meeting a week or so early. But the other thing to note here is that we're being a little bit more conscious, right, in terms of who is getting a sponsorship from the IDA, making sure that they have a plan, seeing what the benefit of that sponsorship is. So, Anna's been, that's been, I think, one of her charges in terms of, trying to get a better understanding of how that benefits the organization. So you'll see that fiscal responsibility remain throughout, certainly through the rest of the year. So we're pretty good in terms of through 3 months. Budget's really hard because timing, really throwing a dartboard. But again, you can see where we were compared to last year and just in terms of revenue, we're about $130,000 over where we were last year at this time in terms of revenue, and better than expenses by about $220,000. So overall, a net about $350,000 better than we were last year at this time. The other thing I will mention, we are going to kind of go through, probably as many small businesses are, really looking at a sensitivity, revenue sensitivity model with respect to where we are today, what we think is in our pipeline, where we think, based on the current state of the economics and the businesses, if we think we're going to have a slowdown at all. And so we're going to provide, hopefully, based on historical data and also some sensitivity with respect to reductions in possible revenue. We'll provide some sort of where we think we need to be and accordingly fiscally manage if we do anticipate or project any revenues or decrease in revenues.
Greg, this is Ann. Have you done any projections with the staff there at all at this point I know it's a dartboard probably at this point, but, whether we expect to see maybe a 50% reduction in revenues. I know we're ahead over last year, but, we're substantially already behind the budget for year to date. So I'm just curious if we have any rough numbers at this point.
I really don't, and it's not. I wouldn't look at the budget as much as last year. So we're ahead of last year, and again, one of the key drivers of that is our pipeline, right? So we're going to be working with Lydia and her team to get an understanding of what is in the pipeline, what we can expect, where we were last year, where our pipeline was last year, and where we ended up. We typically are slower, right, in the summer months, right, May, June, July, August, and then everything typically ramps up in the last quarter. So, the challenge is going to be, okay, hey, is that slowdown because of our traditional lull, or is it really, a change in the business environment? And again, I don't have exact numbers here for you yet. What I would say is that, if things go down, I just think we're going to end up having more projects. We're just going to have to step on the gas a little bit more in the last quarter than we ever have, right?
Okay.
So I think that would be my gut assumption right this second. And again, let me put some data that'll support that before I kind of talk on a.
Okay, great. And appreciate that. And on program and community development, I'm assuming the NCC Levels Up program is continuing, and that's just a timing issue.
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
I can speak to that. This is Anna. Yes, that
Hi,
program.
Anna.
Hi, that program continues to exist, although it's somewhat on hold at the moment because MCC is doing all of its instruction remotely at this time. And of course, as you probably observed, there's been a lot of job loss in our community. So we're not seeing a ton of activity with Ladders Up. We also have a project on the horizon. When we get on the other side of the crisis, we're going to revisit that program and rebrand it and come up with a new and creative way to deploy it in Monroe County so that we can jumpstart the workforce in the aftermath of COVID-19.
Okay, great. That sounds pretty good. So great. Any other questions for Greg or Anna or anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on with our project application for Action Towing. Anna, do you want to pick up that for us?
Certainly. Action Towing of Rochester Incorporated, or Action, located in the town of Henrietta, provides auto repair, towing, and emergency road services throughout Monroe County. Action who has been serving the public since 2002, currently has contracts with AAA and the Monroe County Sheriff's Department. Action is proposing to purchase a 2020 International tow truck due to their continued growth. The $105,220 project is projected to create 2 new FTEs, while current employment is at 43. Action has been approved for a great rate on the equipment purchase through the Monroe County Industrial Development Corporation and is seeking approval of the Equiplus sales tax exemption through COMIDA. The benefit to incentive ratio is 20-1.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Camp, I believe you're still with us.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Would you like to elaborate on any of that in terms of your plans for this project?
Well, we've expanded onto the thruway, a contract that we were awarded 2-3 years ago. And the additional call volume before, obviously, all the COVID effects prompted us to want to go ahead and add another truck to our fleet. So even with the downturn in the economy, we are still moving forward with our business plan, and we plan on a quick recovery once they turn the switch back on.
Okay, great. Are there questions from the board? Those who are not speaking, if you could put your phone on mute. Are there any questions from the board on this? I guess not. All right. Well, we appreciate you're working with us on this, and we appreciate the fact that your business is so important to us right now, and your continued growth is important to us as well. So, are you aware of our local labor policy?
Yes.
Do you anticipate any local labor exemptions at this time?
No.
Are you aware that any exemptions need to be requested 45 days in advance?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The seeker process on this item is complete, and we'll now move forward with the reading of the resolution. Anna?
A special meeting of the County of Monroe Industrial Development Agency. The agency was held at 50 West Main Street, Rochester, New York.
I move to
14614.
waive the reading of the resolution.
There's been a motion to waive the reading of the resolution. Is it just on this project, or?
On all projects.
Yeah, all projects. Is there a second?
Second.
And that was? Rhett. Thank you, Rhett. Any additional comments on the motion to waive the reading? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I'll now ask for a motion for inducement and final resolution approving the sales tax exemption. Is there a motion?
I make a motion, Ann.
Is that Lisa?
Yes.
It must be Lisa. Okay, is there a second?
I hope.
Is there a second?
30 seconds.
Thank you, Tony. Any additional comments, questions on this project? Okay, I'll take a roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
It's a yay. Tony?
Yes.
It's a yay. Lisa?
Yay.
It's a yay. Troy?
Yay.
Yay. Joe?
Yay.
Thank you. Brett?
Yay.
It's a yay, and Ann is a yay. That's unanimous, and the motion carries. So, congratulations, Craig, and thank you very much for continuing to stay here and grow in Monroe County. We're happy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for all you guys do too. You've been a great asset to this company. So stay safe. I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you. You too, Craig.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, we'll move on to So that's the end of our regular project, shorter agenda this meeting. We'll move on to a project modification now. This is on the I-Square project, and they're asking for extra time on that. And Anna, you want to read the modification request?
Yes. I-Square is a mixed-use town center development in the town of Arundecoit. This request is for an extension of the sales tax exemption benefits through December 31st, 2021, due to a longer construction period. The project is expected to be completed in 2022.
Thank you. I don't believe we have a representative joining us on this. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And
Rachel, how many extensions have we given them?
Well, the project started in 2013, so a number. 5.
Okay, I
was going to bring that up, issue of extension up, because the resolution does show, that it was originally adopted on March 19, 2013. There was an extension to December 31, 2019, and that was extended again to June 30. There's a further request for December of 21. And then looks like the work is not going to be completed on this project until then. So is there a limit on the number of extensions that we can provide on these projects?
No, as long as the scope of the project doesn't change, we can continue to give extensions. If there's a material change in the project, then it's a different analysis.
Okay, because it looks like it's not going to be completed until 2022. So they'll be back. So.
Probably.
The school district is okay with the extension?
Well, this is just sales tax, so it doesn't impact the school district.
Okay.
Hey, Rachel, do you have any color on the extension? Is this COVID-19 related, or I guess where is the project?
I know that it's a large scale project, and I think it might be in part due to the pandemic, because the current sales tax package goes out until June of this year. But given the ban on the moratorium on non-essential construction, I think it's a factor. But I think it's largely that it's a very large and aggressive project, and once you get into projects like any other, they take a long time.
Okay. Are there any other questions on this extension?
Rachel, it's Joe. I got a question. When did it start, the project? 13?
It was approved in 13, but the pilot, I believe, was executed in 2014.
Yeah, I think they broke ground in 14.
That's probably correct.
Okay. And you don't know, do they have any financing issues, or is there any other issues behind this that we should know about?
Not that I'm aware of.
It seems to me that early on with this project, there were time limits on specific portions of the project, and those were modified too. Rachel, you could correct me if I'm wrong.
You're correct. There were milestones built into the project. That was part of some amendmentary documentation we did in the summer of 2017 in collaboration with the town and the school. And what we did there is we modified the milestones to be square foot based milestones achievable at the end of specific calendar years. I'd have to go back and review what those dates were, but I do know that we've not hit one of those dates yet.
Okay.
Have they hit any of them?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, they are. What I meant is that there's not another measurement date that we've hit. They are meeting the expectations under the pilot agreement fully.
Yeah, as it was amended, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just so I'm clear, so there were dates set and they met those dates?
That's right, Joe.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on that? All right, I will ask for a move to waive the reading of the resolution. I'll now ask for a motion to approve an extension of the sales tax exemption through December 31, 2021. Is there a motion?
My motion.
Troy, thank you.
Second.
Second by
Matt.
That. Thank you. I'm going to learn all the new business eventually. It'd be nice to be in the same room with all of you. Okay. Any additions or corrections to that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. At this time, I'll turn the agenda over to Anna, who is, of course, our new executive director, and she has several projects she'd like to update us on. The first being the Monroe County Emergency Small Business Support Program. Anna?
Thank you, Anne. So you are likely all aware that in previous weeks, we worked with the MCIDC board to approve a small business emergency loan fund for firms affected by coronavirus or COVID-19. And in the course of just a couple of weeks, we received well over 300 applications for these funds and are fully extended now on the $500,000 that the MCIDC board approved for our use for that program. We have observed that, so the program was announced on Thursday, March 26th, and a total of 50 applications, maybe a little bit more, were approved for funding. The majority are requesting the full $10,000 0% interest loans. A handful requested a smaller amount. And what we're observing is that the majority of these businesses employ 15 or fewer FTEs. Many of them are in service sectors and retail, hotels, restaurants, catering, companies that are hard hit by the crisis and otherwise lack the bandwidth to get through the red tape required to access newly announced federal funds through the SBA and the CARE Act and the PPP. So we know that we took a creative approach and are serving a segment of the business community that probably would have struggled a lot more had we not gotten out in front of this. So what we are requesting of the board, understanding that state law poses some limitations, and I'm going to turn it to Rachel in a few minutes, but we're asking the board to make a motion to approve and allocate an additional $500,000 to the program and enter into a contract with the Monroe County Industrial Development Corporation to administer additional funds so that we can support an additional 50 businesses who have applied for funds. And just so that you're aware, Harris Beach and other entities are making a push in Albany to encourage the signing of an executive order by the governor to allow IDAs to directly lend money as well as to make purchases of equipment and stimulate workforce development programs in the aftermath of COVID-19 to help local governments throughout the state address this unprecedented crisis. So I want to turn it over to Rachel before we open it up for board discussion to talk a little bit more about that effort.
So as Anna mentioned, IDA funds are restricted and our ability to grant and loan and bequest is not permitted under our enabling statute. So we have had to come up with creative and somewhat imperfect ways to deploy our funds. Similarly, with what we do with Ladders Up, we are seeking to deploy $500,000 and hire MCIDC to administer this loan program on our behalf. While we are doing that, Harris Beach is working with the NYSEDC, that's the New York State Economic Development Council, to push for an executive order that would give greater flexibility on the use of IDA funds and perhaps even allow IDAs to loan directly. Many IDAs across the state have very large fund balances that we believe should be put to use in this instance to jumpstart the economy. And if not given the very broad authority to loan or grant our funds, we Harris Beach Public Finance, in conjunction with Monroe County and other large counties with large IDA fund balances, are requesting an executive order that would allow IDA funds to be used for testing sites. The governor is pushing for testing and public-private partnership to achieve that. So we are working diligently to have our voices heard in Albany, and we'll continue with the help of Anna and the county executive to that end.
Thank you, Rachel. And I'd also like to echo Greg's point earlier about how we're taking a good look at our budget and identifying ways that we can save money so that we can have even more resources to support these efforts. And I also wish to commend Lydia Burr and her team, Bridget and Raquel, for all of the hard work and hours that they put into administering these loans in the past couple of weeks. It hasn't been an easy task, and also has been stress-inducing because you're reading stories about companies in distress at the moment, and so I want to commend that team, and also Allison and Robin and Rachel have been tremendous in pushing it forward as well. So with that, I'd like to open it up for board discussion.
We appreciate all the efforts of the entire team, and Anna, you leading the way on this. I have a question. So we, at this point, from a standpoint of the requirements around the IDAs, the MCIDC can make grants, correct?
That is correct, yes.
But we have the money to do it and they don't? I'm trying to figure that out.
They have already allocated $500,000, and we have gone through it. There were roughly 300 applications, 50 of which, in excess of 50, have been approved, with the balance waiting in the bays and more applications coming in every day. So unlike a lot of counties, you have a situation where we have an IDA board that does not mirror the sister entity board. That's typically, it's atypical. So in an effort to involve you all as community leaders, we wanted to present this as an opportunity to participate in this program, given the other group has already done so.
Right. And so, and we do have the funds available.
Yes, you do.
But there's no way that we could just grant that to them under the, the stipulations of this plan without the change in the executive order or a new.
So without, absent the executive order, we are going to hire them under a service contract to administer funds on our behalf. It's not perfect. There's risk involved. Anna and leadership is aware of the risk, and we are in a position that we feel very comfortable defending the hiring of MCIDC through a service contract to administer an economic development program on our behalf.
So Rachel, this is Troy. So I've seen other loans, both federal and state, and there is some interest attached to those loans. And is it something that we're at zero and there's a reason we're at zero? Or should we, as a board, knowing that we're taking on some liability, put a percentage on this interest? And I'm just asking, thinking out loud, just to cover some of the costs on this. If we do get, you know, some people that don't pay back and they dissolve, I guess. What's our backstop for the loan, I guess is my question, at a 0% interest?
So we are receiving personal guarantees. The loans are secured with a personal guarantee. As the federal aid that is available is the Paycheck Protection Program under the CARES Act and the expansion of the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, both SBA programs. The Paycheck Protection Program carries a 1% interest rate and a 2-year payment term. Our loan is targeted at smaller businesses than both of those SBA programs. 50 or fewer employees is what we are targeting with a personal guarantee. Those loans are unsecured. I know the PPP is unsecured. The EIDL, I think actually does require a personal guarantee. Actually, Lydia could probably correct me on that. I focused on PPP. The reasoning for the zero interest was, as Anna mentioned, to remove as much red tape as possible and deploy funds as quickly as possible. The first approximately 50 loans have already gone out with zero interest. That's not to say that can't change. We're trying to avoid changes in the program midstream. As you are probably all aware, if you're following the news, the Paycheck Protection Program was initially rolled out under the CARES Act at a 4% interest rate. And then when the SBA promulgated regs, it was 0.5 point. And then when they got feedback from lenders, the Department of Treasury announced the interest rate would go to 1% to get banks more comfortable. So my point is, programs are rolling out. Interest rates are somewhere in those ranges, and we had elected to do a zero interest rate with a personal guarantee for payment.
So Rachel, what's the term? It says as to be determined. So they start repayment of loans in January.
Correct.
That's right. Yep.
And you might want to think about the.
I just on that question is, what is the term? Is it paid back within 1 year, 2 years?
Oh, it's 2 years, 24 months.
Okay, I missed that. Thank you.
Rachel, can you hear me?
Yes.
So, am I correct with my thinking? If we implement an interest rate, especially if it's something low like 1%, the administrative costs for the changes and probably dealing with the interest rate, you're going to offset it by what you spend in administrative costs. Is that right?
Yes, Joe, I would agree that would be the case.
So I can't see doing that. It just makes no sense. And by the time you're done, put an interest rate on it that covers all those costs and makes sense, you're probably not doing any justice to the borrower.
It's a very good point.
Lydia,
So
I
I
would
would-
say one.
Yeah, Lydia, please.
Yes, Lydia.
So, the MCIDC board debated this point quite a bit. I think the thought was that there'll be other costs associated that businesses are going to have to bear, that the zero interest situation provided them the most opportunity to survive in a situation where we know people are going to be, fighting to survive. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia.
Are there other questions? Other
I just have
questions?
a comment. I would leave it at 0.
I think there was certainly that intent to be sympathetic somewhat to our small businesses to get them back on the terms to get going.
Yeah. And I think if you do the math, I mean, even if do the math on what 1% would be, it's really not worth it. And again, I think you'll probably be moving backwards by the time you factor in all your administrative costs implementing that.
Yeah, that would be about $5,000. So really a drop in the bucket.
Yep.
So I'm sorry I don't want to be the dead horse. The document that we're reviewing says for a term to be determined. Does it say 24 months somewhere in this document?
I think in the board packet we include the draft proposal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had made, this was a draft proposal prepared. The terms of the loan are 24 months. Yeah. I see that. And we, in an interest of time, didn't update the proposal.
All right.
This is Troy again. So the payments start January 2021, and these are going to be monthly payments.
Yes.
Is there a mechanism in place that when do we decide that, there's concern? 2 months, 3 months, 90 days, 120? Are you going to make provisions to just say, we'll extend you, and if you could lump sum this in 2 years, or what's the mechanism to keep us, liability minimal?
Sure. So I just want to address one thing that came to mind. There's no prepayment penalty, so businesses can prepay the full amount at any time during the 24 months or after receiving the loan. I am preparing loan documents. So there is a loan and security agreement. There's a note and there's a personal guarantee contained within the loan agreement and note are default provisions, one of which is non-payment. And in the event of non-payment, the interest rate goes to the Wall Street prime plus 2%.
There you go. Thank you.
And Rachel, that's if it goes past 24 months, you said?
I have to, Joe, I got to look at how I did the default provisions. I believe it was for any late payment over 30 or 60 days.
Okay, and just so I'm clear, so the term of the loan, is it 24 months or is it beyond that?
Only 24 months.
And then you got to pay it back within the 24 months?
That's right.
Okay. And then if you get this loan, are you eligible for the PPP loan through the SBA as well?
Yes, we have not put any conditions on the other available loans.
So it's not one or the other?
Correct.
Okay.
But again, our program it's less labor intensive for small businesses to apply and benefit from it. So we're seeing more mom and pop neighborhood businesses availing themselves of this program versus that otherwise would not have been able to process those other federal applications, which are a lot more time consuming.
Are you still asking for 2 years tax returns?
Yes. Well, we're not asking for tax returns. We're asking for 2 quarters of the New York State 45 and a personal financial statement of all owners.
Okay. Hey, Rachel, I'm looking at the PPP SBA documents, and it says on here that if you've taken out any other SBA or federally funded loan, and I think it refers to this loan, that you can't get that loan.
So with
we just want to check that, that's all.
Yeah, with the PPP, you can apply for a PPP and an EIDL, and you can use the PPP to refinance an EIDL. I'm not aware if you cannot apply for 2 PPPs. And you can't apply for 2 SBA loans for the same purpose. So no double dipping under the SBA programs.
And I think to your question, and maybe Lydia can speak to this, yes, if a business, it's our understanding at this time that if a business receives a 0% $10,000 loan from Monroe County, then they still are eligible for those other federal programs, but they may, if they're asking for $100,000, they may get $90,000 to reflect the $10,000 gap.
You know what, that's my perception here, that makes sense.
But our dollars are moving faster and getting to these businesses in a more time-sensitive manner. So we don't think that should be an issue. And again, businesses that aren't applying for those programs are applying for ours.
Oh, no, this is Jay. That's great for getting the money out there quickly. My question is, even with this additional $500,000, it looks like we'll only be able to fund 1 out of every 3 loan applicants. How are you guys, I guess 2 questions there. Should we be considering a larger amount? And even then, we're not going to be able to meet demand. How are we going to determine who gets it and who doesn't? Is it just the time in which they applied? What are the criteria?
You're spot on. Lydia's team has established a ranking process and are putting applications in essentially 3 tiers. So if you score a 1, then you're absolutely eligible. If you score a 2, there are some question marks there, but you could be eligible if further funds are approved. And then 3s do not qualify. And absolutely, we welcome the opportunity to unlock additional funds for this loan program. We're just trying to take a little bit more of a conservative approach and take it day by day. Lydia, do you mind speaking to how your team is scoring applications?
Sure, this is Lydia. So we're reviewing applications for completeness, for signatures. The application does include a section for certain certifications. We're verifying that real property taxes are current and there are no payment plans, or that taxes have been made and are current. There is a section on the application that asks folks to disclose if there are any tax obligations that are on. So that's our first determination. Then we're reviewing, there's a component part there that asks them to describe for us why there is, how COVID-19 has affected their business. When applications are complete and appear to be reasonable, we're looking at folks that have under 50 employees, and most of them we're seeing are significantly less. Then we're moving it through the process. And some folks, as Anna had indicated, we've put into a 2 category. We feel that they could potentially be funded if funds were available to fund them. But at this juncture, we're really determining, based on our judgment and our experience in reviewing loans over many years, what the most critical needs are.
Lydia, to go along with that, this is Rhett. So I know that money has gone out for 50 businesses. There were 300 applications. You just said that some of the applications that I'm assuming have not been funded may be funded with the additional resources. Can you kind of talk about? Does it go along with you're using a? If you're a number 1, you're sure to get a payment. Can you talk about the 300 applications a little bit more? Were some of them flat out rejected?
Yes. So, and we have looked at nearly 200 of the applications, and we have a backlog of 1, if you will. Those that we feel could be funded if dollars were available. One of the criteria we are looking at is folks that appear to have what the SBA would call a credit elsewhere test, that they would have available credit elsewhere. And whether that is, they've disclosed to us significant dollars in their financial statements, or we've just, it appears that they have ability to get dollars to cover their needs elsewhere, and that may well be the SBA programs, the federal programs that are out there.
So it's on a basis need
Yes,
that you take a final look. Yeah.
yes. And there are some that clearly.
Do those companies that you just mentioned that have funding options or access to credit elsewhere, do they end up in the 2 category? You rated them 1, 2, and not fundable. Where do those companies end up? Are they in the 2 bucket?
If their application is complete, they are in the 2 bucket.
Okay. Got it.
So
How big is the backlog in the number 1 bucket?
I'd say it's about 20 applications right now.
Okay.
And it's varying the length of, the ones that we end up classifying as a 3, we're taking more time at looking at to make sure, in fact, that our determination is correct in that area, and as well as in the 2 area. So there's opportunity also to go back, I think, to folks if need be, to say, and we have done that on a limited basis to folks where there was one small piece of information that wasn't available. We may have just in their haste not completed the application correctly. We've gone back to a number of those folks and asked for additional information. So we're trying to move through the list as quickly as possible to get as much dollars out the door as possible.
Great.
Any other questions? All right, I'll ask for a motion. We're going to take a roll call vote on this. And the motion is to approve and allocate $500,000 to the program and enter into contract with the Monroe County Industrial Development Corporation to administer the funds. May I have a motion, please?
Tony makes the motion.
Thank you, Tony. Is there a second?
Red, second.
Lisa.
Red. Okay, thank you. Any additional comments, questions? All right, I'll take a roll call. Jay?
Yep.
Tony?
Yes?
Lisa?
Yes.
Troy?
Yay.
Joe?
Yay.
Brett?
Yay.
And Ann is a yay, so it's unanimous and the motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda is another update from Anna on the website refresh project.
Thank you. This is just for informational purposes. Our team is soliciting quotes from website design entities in Monroe County to refresh the imaginemonroe.org website is up, but because we are going back to referring to this agency as COMIDA, we are going to take a look at how we can reconfigure the website. And also, again, we're keeping cost in mind so that we can ensure that if we do have a depletion in revenue going forward, we're spending our money judiciously on web design and maintenance.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions on that? All right. Next item on the agenda is an executive session. And I will ask for a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters and to review a contract proposal. Is there a motion to move into executive? That Troy?
Yep.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second, Red.
Thank you, Red. Any additional questions, Matt? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, is there any, even all the folks who are on this